Hello everyone and welcome to the second episode of a Retro Day with GojiGames. Roblox has been a big part of my channel's early days, so it definitely holds a special place in my heart. I spent 4 years playing some games and chatting with people on that platform, and I'm gonna look back at many of those awesome moments, so here we go! My first Roblox video was a gameplay of Godzilla Rampage. I was still in my kaiju fan phase, so naturally, I decided to play a Godzilla-related game. It reminds me a lot of the awful 1998 film directed by Roland Emmerich, mostly because it looks like it takes place in New York City. I purposely made Godzilla destroy the oil platform as I wanted to see if he could really do so. I believe the game was unfinished when I recorded this, and the creator ended up removing it completely sometime later. By the way, I like how Night Ray decided to just kill himself by walking straight towards Godzilla. We did try to get some action going, since most of the time, it was kinda boring. At the end of part 2, I went back to the destroyed oil platform where it all started. Pretty good ending if you ask me. I haven't played Call of Duty World at War, but I did play the iPod Touch version of Nach der Untoten. Then, I discovered the Roblox version and played it a lot. I sure had some fun trying to beat my record every time I opened this game up. My best record is 29 rounds, and I can't remember how I managed to get that far. It was probably a lucky shot where my team consisted of many great players, and I wish I had recorded some footage of it. But hey, at least I got to meet the creator, Star Battle. From what I remember, he's a cool guy, and he did an amazing job with the Roblox version of this game. Survive the Disasters was the first Roblox game I've ever played. I've always liked it from the start, as there are tons of possibilities, which makes it nearly impossible to tell what will come next. Another cool thing about this game is if I didn't survive a certain disaster, I would return the next day and try to do better, because I wanted to be able to say that I survived every disaster at least once. When my username popped up on the screen saying I survived, it just gave me this nice feeling. Occasionally, the background would change, and it did help creating different vibes. You can tell it's an early version of the game as there were disasters such as Spike Wall and Battlebox 2 that would get a little repetitive. You can also tell that my favorite item at the time was the gravity coil because it made me jump much higher. For whatever reason, Tornado got so many views! I don't see anything special about this video other than being a souvenir for myself. It got boring pretty fast as there's not much to it, just survive and win some awards. On the other hand, Roblox Dodgeball was a bit more fun and chaotic. The only problem is that it relies on the number of players in a server. I noticed half of the video was playing the game, and the other half was sending friend requests to random people. Paintball was very frustrating for me. I was never good at this game, but it doesn't mean I only had bad moments. Whenever I got my revenge immediately after being killed, it was very funny, especially when the camera flew all over the place. I remember fooling around in Jason's underground base quite often. I would purposely open the door to get others killed, lock people inside the slab, and even went as far as trapping Jason inside the safe. It was never about getting the high score. It was about messing with other players and challenging yourself. In the older version of this game, you could never run out of bullets and there was no friendly fire. In the newer version, it was the complete opposite. Zombies on a Plane was another good one. It was mostly about skateboarding all over the place and shooting. Although the skateboard wasn't always working properly and I'd fall off, which either led to a death or a ridiculous moment, like a zombie riding a skateboard. I can't count how many times I've accidentally killed myself or somebody else using the remote mines. Jaws was one of my favorites because I never got bored of it. Even if you die, you can still play, but you won't gain points. What's funny is the game claims to be realistic, yet the shark jumps out of the water like a dolphin. I'm no marine biologist, but I'm pretty sure that sharks don't jump like so. I never managed to kill Jaws, but I came close at one point. The launcher I used was a very weak weapon, so that didn't help. I have no idea how this happened, but I once got teleported on top of one of those rocks. Sure, it made it impossible for me to get killed, but it took away the excitement. Although it didn't matter anyways since the shark chickened out during that round. Interestingly enough, things started to get a little crazy as soon as I began using the Orca. Boogeyman Mystery of the Postman was the first horror game I've played during my horror movie phase as a teenager. It was also my first attempt at recording a walkthrough of a Roblox game, but I had to guide someone else during the process, so it was a little frustrating. I like the fact that there's a story, but unfortunately, it's a short one. It took me a while to figure out how to get to Act 6 as the game was dark and it wasn't instantly apparent that I had to get through a room with a moving floor. I don't believe Paranormal Activity 3 was based on the movie, but I also don't think the game claims to be. It did look similar to Boogeyman, but instead of taking place in a castle, it takes place underground. I always thought the jump scares were just cheap ways to frighten players, and I found the ending to be quite confusing. My friend Cody introduced me to SCP-087, and initially, it was kinda creepy. Even he was a little hesitant when he saw SCP-087-1 for the first time. As I recall, he didn't approach it and left the game. Days later, we tried again, and eventually, we realized it wasn't as scary as we originally thought. When recording this video, I was hoping to last long enough for a 10-minute gameplay, but of course, luck wasn't on my side, so I kept recording and spectated another player. Area 51 is a game about exploring. There aren't any enemies, but the place is huge! It was still being developed when I recorded the video, so maybe there was more planned, but I'll never know. This was my first time collaborating with someone I've met on the internet, and after releasing the video, I never communicated with Icebreaker ever again. We didn't get to explore enough of the underground base, so I was very disappointed. By the way, I don't know why he wanted to kill this other player, but it's still super funny. When I recorded this gameplay, I was finally able to upload videos that are longer than 15 minutes, so I took advantage of it and combined the two recordings. Unfortunately, I also had an issue with my laptop rendering my videos with the sharpness cranked. A lot of it could have been cut since there isn't much going on except for me killing and killing some more. Slenderman the Legend was what introduced me to Slenderman. You can tell just by reading the chat at the top. Obviously, this doesn't represent the original game very well, but who knows? It was probably another game that was still being developed at the time. From what I remember, you couldn't do much except for exploring and avoiding Slenderman. I completely forgot that Bloody Mary Awakened Trapped has this introduction screen. When I watched it, I was very impressed, as I didn't know it was possible to do such a thing in a Roblox game. It was another attempt at recording a walkthrough, but let's face it, there was no point, and there was this one part where I got confused for a moment. It was one of my favorite horror games on the platform because of the story and atmosphere. I think the sequel was being developed, and I was really hoping to record a gameplay of it, but I left Roblox before its release or cancellation. Slender was a more accurate representation of the original game than Slenderman the Legend. I consider it as my worst Roblox video ever, not only because of the blurry visuals, but also because I was terrible at this game. When recording this, I used an alternate account as my main one got suspended for use of profanity. After watching some of the Saw films, I decided to browse around for some Roblox games based on those movies. At the time, Saw the game was the best I could find, and even then, I wasn't very satisfied, but I still recorded something nonetheless. There are definitely some creative liberties here and there, but they kinda ruined the game in my opinion. The video has no audio because I forgot to record it and I couldn't use the Hello Zep track as it would result in a block. Freddy vs. Jason vs. Slenderman vs. Scream was most likely a misunderstood video. For some reason, it got a lot of views and half of the audience disliked it. I understand if it's due to the visual quality, but I guess some viewers expected a little more from a video with an interesting title like this. I will agree the name is slightly misleading, but I enjoyed playing that game. Plus, who doesn't want to see Slenderman trip? Escape Detention may look like a speedrun, but trust me, it's not. Someone wrote in the comments section that he could beat this game 10 times faster than me, but failed to showcase evidence. Nevertheless, cool game, and the video looks so much better than most of my previous gameplays. I thought of having this epic introduction for my Dead Roblox Outbreak 2 video, but no matter which song I picked, it would get blocked, and that's why there's no audio during the first 43 seconds. For the outro, I used a Rise Against tune, and fortunately, nothing happened. I don't know how I went from decent visuals to dark and blurry, but it's presumably because I was experimenting with recording software. I took a year-long break from Roblox to focus on some other gameplay videos, and when I returned, I discovered the Darkness games. I was at the end of my horror movie phase as a teenager, so that's why I was still looking for scarier games on the platform. I created these short scenes with another player, and I cringe every time I watch them. But I will say, the visuals have really improved. If only I had more recordings that looked as good as this one. I had another short story planned for this video, but since it was too demanding for someone like me, I scrapped it. I also briefly mentioned that I was working on a movie, which ended up being cancelled as well. In fact, there was a lot of pre-production done for some Roblox content before leaving. I had a few more gameplays in mind, and I joined this filmmaking community to work on some shorts, but all of that went down the drain. My Roblox videos were getting more and more difficult to make, they weren't getting views like they used to, and I had trouble finding the right people to help me, so that discouraged me quite a bit. Now, about Darkness 2, it was pretty much like the first game, so I didn't see the point in making a sequel. It was still fun though. When I heard of Five Nights at Freddy's and how big of a hit that game has become, I searched for a Roblox version of it. As I recall, there were multiple ones, and some were more faithful than others. I will admit, the Roblox models of the animatronics look a little creepier than the original ones, mostly because of the eyes. When I released this video, I finally realized people have moved on. I only played through the first night and got no views or requests. I decided to take another break from gameplays to focus on my shorts and the movie. I wrote scripts, shot scenes, gathered actors, recorded some music, dialogue, and there was even an animator willing to contribute. I also had a sequel planned, but people were gradually losing interest and it was impossible to find new collaborators. It really left an impact on me as I worked my ass off to get these projects made, and I had to think about it for months. By the end of 2015, I've made one of the most difficult decisions in my life. I deleted all of my scripts, recordings, everything that was related to Roblox, and permanently logged out of my account on the platform. It was a very heartbreaking moment for me. So much so that I took some time away from social media to recover from a feeling like this. It was a fun ride, and I'm glad I got some recordings to look back at. It would have been amazing to see some of these later projects brought to life, but unfortunately, they will only remain as memories for me. Thank you so much for watching this episode of A Retro Day with GojiGames, and I'll see you in the next video.